Hello everyone and welcome to another day at our van dealership in Berkshire. So the sun's out, it's probably the beginning of the spring weather, but that hasn't unfortunately filtered into many sales for us this week. Since yesterday and today, sales have been a little bit quiet. The phone hasn't really been very active in the last couple of days. So while I've got some time on my hands, which isn't very often, I was going to do a few more videos about various different things. Now, video today, which I wanted to talk about, it's a very long story. People often ask me, who was the biggest headache customer that you've ever had to deal with? What's been the biggest disaster that you've had to deal with and sort out? And for me, there's only really one that I can ever think of, which was a complete and utter disaster. It turned into that. And to this day, I'm still not quite sure whether the guy was just a bit of a psychopath or there was something more, perhaps malign involved, which I probably suspect there was, involving some kind of insurance scam. So I'll tell you the whole story. The guy came to look at a vehicle. It was a Mitsubishi pickup truck. Now he arrived, I think it was a Sunday, or a Saturday that he came to look at it. From the minute he arrived, I was suspicious of him. So the vehicle was on our forecourt. He came to look at it. He didn't even come over to me and introduce himself. I just see that he's opened the door because it was open. I'd had it cleaned a few hours before. He'd opened the door to the pickup truck, and he was just basically sitting in it and playing around with things in the cab, without even coming to introduce himself or ask for the key or anything. And from the start, I thought that was a bit strange. And so then he test drove the vehicle. He was happy with it. He wasn't particularly interested in the vehicle, which, looking back on it, it kind of made sense. But he was with his wife and their children, and so then he agreed to buy the vehicle from us. It was I think it was like a £10,000 Mitsubishi, black Mitsubishi L200 pickup truck. And another alarm bell, which I just thought he was quite a strange person. But in there was a few things before it even happened. Another one was, we're on a test drive with him, and he was kind of telling me about how all these people that when he was on holiday last year, and these girls that he'd met and women that he was talking to, even though he was clearly married and his wife was in our office waiting for him to come back. So he was telling me these personal things about him, almost showing off, very strange. And he was with his two kids, and when he was with them, looking around the vehicle, he was kind of bullying his own children. Sort of like at one point he threatened them that he was going to leave them in the back of the van forever unless they basically behaved themselves, and he was taunting his own young children, which I thought was very bizarre. He was relatively amicable to me. He was quite friendly. There was nothing untoward by this point. But then so he agreed to buy the vehicle. He left the deposit, and then he said, I'll come to collect it. I think it was the next day or whenever. And then so the next day came along, and I think he came to collect it. And he told me when he was here that the vehicle, he had called up Mitsubishi, who was the manufacturer, and they had told him that there was an outstanding safety recall on the vehicle. Now, I was unaware of this because it didn't show anything online, and he had apparently spoken to them, and they'd told him that there was an outstanding safety recall, and he needed to get sorted. And by this point, like I say already, I was starting to maybe subconsciously panic, and I wish I'd listened to my gut because it would have saved me in the long run a lot of pain and heartache. So he was very obsessed by this safety recall, and really stupidly, which was this was the beginning of my downfall. I gave him two options. I said I can either get the recall done, because with recalls they're free. You just take it to the Mitsubishi, the main dealer. You get it done, and then you can use the vehicle normally afterwards. So I said to him, you can either I'll get the recall done and then drop it off to you once it's done, or I said you can take, because he was pressuring me to take the vehicle that day because he said he needed it for work. And so I said, you can take it now. In 2 days' time, I'll pick it up when Mitsubishi can fit me in. I'll collect it from you, I'll do the recall, and I'll drop it back to you once it's done. Now, to this day, I still think that was reasonable. It was foolish of me based on what happened, but I gave him those two options, and he really pressured me into letting him take it that day because he said he needed it for work the next day. Like I say, I was uneasy at the time, and I did actually put on the invoice basically not to drive the vehicle because there's an outstanding safety recall. So I let him, so I made him aware that he should not drive the vehicle apart from just taking it home. Wait till I've done the recall, drop it back to him, and then he can use it normally. So he took it away, all fine, and then 2 days later, this is when it all kind of started to go a bit awry. 2 days later, he when I was on the way to collect the vehicle, he called me. I saw his number calling, and I immediately started to panic because I knew that something was. I just knew this guy. There was something that really gave me anxiety about him. So I was on the way on the motorway. He calls me, and he says, Max, I've got some really bad news for you. And I say, what? And he says, I'm really sorry to say this, but my wife has just been involved in a serious accident in the vehicle. So my immediate reaction was, is your wife okay? Where is she? Blah blah blah. And I'll never forget what he said to me, which was so bizarre. He said, don't worry about it. He said, I'll sort it. You don't need to worry about it, because I was near to their house at the time and he wasn't. I said, no, let me go and make sure your wife's okay. And he said, no, don't do it. You go back to your business and I'll sort it out. And I thought, that is a strange thing to say if your wife just had a car crash. So I actually went to the house, and as luck would have it, I saw what had happened. It was on a main road near their house. The truck had swung into a bush. There was no other cars involved, and miraculously, to this day, I still don't know what had happened in terms of the actual crash. I did take some photos of it, which I will actually be able to show you. This was many years ago now that this happened. So you can see the truck there in a bush, and there's another photo as well of the damage. So the rear canopy had come off, but the truck, when I got in it, when I arrived, I mean, his wife was very shaken up, but there was nothing suggesting as to why this vehicle, which was absolutely perfect, it had full main dealer history, why this had happened. It was very bizarre. If I'd turned up and they'd hit another car from behind, it probably would have made a bit more sense. But cars don't just swerve off the road at 70 miles an hour for no reason. It's kind of strange. And then, so I said to him that I still need to get the recall done, even though you've had this crash and there was cosmetic damage. It wasn't, at this point, there was nothing major that was, wrong with the vehicle. So then what happened was, I said to him, I still need to get this recall sorted. And so we agreed that I would collect the vehicle in a few days' time. He took it back to his house and left it on his driveway. And I agreed I would collect it, take it to Mitsubishi. And I said to him, I'll get the safety recall done, and they'll do a health check on it. They'll make sure that there was no reason why this vehicle basically just froze at 70 miles an hour and swung into a bush. And this guy was very manipulative. So what he would do is it would always be at the last minute he would sort of throw a bit of dynamite at you to sort of scare you, like saying that last minute, oh, my wife just had a crash, which she clearly did. But he was very manipulative in that sense. And so I agreed to collect the vehicle again. And at the last minute, he called me up and he said, I'm really sorry, but I've taken the vehicle to my garage, my local garage, and they've highlighted serious structural issues with the vehicle. To which I replied that, with all due respect, this is a local garage. I'm taking it to Mitsubishi, who's the manufacturer, and they'll give an unbiased report on the vehicle. And then he wouldn't let me take it. He wouldn't let me take it to the main dealer to get checked. And then a few days later, I sort of won him round a little bit, and I agreed to collect it again. I'm on my way again. He calls me again. This is on probably a week later, and he says to me, the police have advised me not to release the vehicle to you because of this is now an ongoing criminal investigation based upon what they found wrong with the vehicle. His local garage, he'd been in contact with the police. So I said to him, well, that's fine. I said, first of all, what's the crime reference number? Because if you've brought to the police, there's obviously a crime reference number. And there's no real reason not to give that to me. He wouldn't give me the crime reference number. And as well as that, the police would never give advice like that to say don't release the vehicle it was a civil matter between me and him, and so I highly doubt the police would ever give that kind of advice in a civil case, because they it's not something they would get involved with in that sense, giving opinions and advice. So by this point I was really starting to panic, not knowing what he was trying to do here to me, because it was very strange. I've sold him a vehicle in a 2-day period where there was an outstanding safety recall. He's had a mysterious crash in the vehicle. Now, for added context, the recall was actually for the fact that the airbags may not work properly and may explode bits of metal in the event of an accident. So now you may be putting 2 and 2 together and sort of seeing where this is going. So by this point, I was very dubious of him, and I said, "Look, I'm gonna cease all communication with you now, and you can deal with my solicitors and speak to them directly." Now, a few days before I had that final communication with him, he called me up, going absolutely crazy, saying that his insurance had been cancelled as a result of this outstanding safety recall on the vehicle. And I said to him, but why are you trying to claim on your insurance when there's minimal damage on the vehicle? Like, it doesn't make any sense why you would call your insurance to do that. No other cars have been involved. You've hit a bush. There was no major damage, cosmetic damage around the vehicle. So again, he was basically blaming me for having sold him a vehicle with a recall, which then cancelled his insurance. So I then blocked him and let him speak to my solicitors about it. Went all through the proper channels, and I was really panicking because I just didn't know what he was trying to do. Was he trying to seek damages from me by trying to have a crash in the vehicle to to get compensation. So was it all a staged crash? Was it an insurance scam? Was it just him? Was it just an unfortunate event? The whole thing was very, very strange. And this was happening for weeks and weeks and weeks, and then finally I spoke to another car dealer about it, and he said that he had a very similar thing happen to him years before, and he told me that this basically was an insurance scam that this guy was trying to pull on me. And then I said, well, how does it work? And he said what this guy is trying to do is he buys a vehicle with an outstanding safety recall. He then has a mysterious crash in that 2-day period with an outstanding safety recall, and he takes it to his local garage. They give him a report saying that it's written off beyond repair. He calls his insurance, makes a claim. His insurance, based on the evidence, then pay him out for the vehicle. So they'll give him a full insurance payout for the damaged vehicle on his insurance. So he gets paid out for the vehicle, and I imagine the vehicle would have then got taken away by the insurance company. And then, this is the really clever bit, he then forces me to refund him for the value of the vehicle, because I should never have sold him a vehicle with an outstanding safety recall, and that was contrary to various the Consumer Rights Act and various other safety regulation acts of products. So he doubles his money because he gets paid by the insurance, and he pursues me for a full refund for the vehicle because I should never have sold him that vehicle with an outstanding safety recall. And even if the vehicle got taken away, he believed I would still have to pay him for that for the vehicle. So it was going on and on and on with my solicitors for months, and I was of the view that this was an insurance scam, and this is what this guy was trying to do to me. And I had a friend who worked in insurance, and he also said when I explained it to him, he said that does sound very suspicious, because what are the odds of having a mysterious crash within a 2-day time frame where there's an outstanding safety recall? And part of me thinks that he was trying to have this crash to make the airbags come out, and maybe if they didn't work properly or whatever, then again I would be liable for all of these damages for damages to his whatever had happened in the potential crash. The airbags didn't come out because the impact wasn't that great, but it was going on for months and months and months, and I suspect he was a serial insurance scammer, and that he had done it many times to many different people. And then, so when it all went to my solicitors, it all kind of came out, and what he was trying to do, and my solicitors later found out that his insurance had been cancelled, not as a result of the recall, but because he had actually done this 3 times already this year to different people. And so he clearly had done this as a way to make money. It didn't quite end the way. It didn't particularly end in my favour, because so when he gave up with the idea of making money from the insurance scam, because his insurance got cancelled because he was clearly seen as a high risk scammer by his own insurance company, that he then pursued me. So the vehicle was left on his driveway, damaged, and it was going on for months, and he pursued me through my solicitors to give him a full refund for the damaged vehicle. And he'd done many strange things in this period, where he appealed the MOT on the vehicle, which was a genuine MOT. he appealed the MOT, saying that because his view was that with the damage, with 4 flat tyres and things like that, with the canopy hanging off, that it wouldn't pass another one. And he tried to appeal the MOT with DVSA, which was unsuccessful for him. And he contacted the previous owner of the vehicle using the service history, and he was trying to get evidence that I knew about the recall with the previous owner, and so he wanted me to give him a full refund for the damaged vehicle, which, the crash wasn't my fault. So, and it was going on for ages and ages and ages, and it was really starting to grind me down, because he was a very, very clever person. He was very manipulative, and then in the end, he I wouldn't precisely call it blackmail, but an example of what he'd done was he would send me an email saying, I really don't want to have to publish this in the local newspaper, or contact the local trading standards team, and he'd send me like a screenshot of the email which he was about to send to trading standards, and he was saying, just give me a full refund, and I won't press this button, and he'd screenshot the whole email with him about to press the button, and it was a very stressful period. And in the end, I woke up one day, this was probably 3 or 4 months later, and I said to my solicitor, I said, just give him a full refund. I said, move it, just get him out of my life. And so I gave him his money back, full refund. I took the vehicle back, which was damaged, and as luck would have it, I dropped it to my body shop to get sorted, and he actually gave me a heavily discounted price to repair it, because he knew how much stress it caused me. We do all of our body repairs with him, so that was very helpful from a financial perspective, to get that sorted. And but the funniest thing, which I think shows you what sort of person he was when it all got sorted, and I had the vehicle collected by a recovery person and dropped back to me. And the recovery person said the guy was telling him how much of an awful person I was, and how sorry, someone's trying to call me, and how much of an awful person I was, and how I didn't even stop to check that his wife was okay. I just drove straight past the crash, and didn't pay any attention, which was just a complete and utter lie. I stopped and made sure his wife was okay, and was probably there for 15-20 minutes consoling her. So just a complete and utter lie, and I imagine this is, people that do these kind of frauds and insurance scams are quite psychopathic, because this guy was, to the last bit of sort of interaction we had, he was very, very strange. He had no social media presence whatsoever, and he played a very careful role, clearly, to keep very very sort of below the radar. But it did get sorted in the end. I gave him his money back and we moved on. But based on the story that I've said, based on the events that happened, do you think this was an insurance scam, or do you think this was just a psycho? Well, no, maybe not a psycho, or just it could have just been a very unlikely crash that had happened and that just spiraled out of control. But based upon how I felt when he first turned up, I was very sort of anxious. I was made very anxious by him. So I suspect that my sort of gut feeling was probably correct. And like I said, my solicitors did say that his insurance had been cancelled for other reasons apart from the safety recall. So I suspect it was some kind of insurance scam that went wrong for him, because his insurance got cancelled as a result of his behaviour. So yeah, put in the comments. Do you think this was an insurance scam? Is it a well-known scam that anybody's been a victim of or heard of before, or do you think this was just a crash, an unlikely crash that just went wrong? Let me know in the comments, and I hope you've enjoyed hearing about my worst ever customer ever. Thanks for watching.